Hey guys, tonight we begin with something a little different. A time of interstellar commerce, hovering cities, and blissful dependence. We're diving into what life would really be like if those crashed saucers in Roswell had actually happened, and the world had spent the last 77 years learning to coexist with beings from the stars. Forget the peaceful first contact movies and the clean diplomatic handshakes you see in science fiction. The truth? You probably wouldn't recognize Earth anymore, and you definitely wouldn't recognize yourself. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. The algorithm loves it when you engage early, and I love knowing you're part of this journey with me. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from, especially if you're listening from somewhere that would have been completely transformed in this alternate timeline. Now, dim the lights, adjust your pillow, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations! You've just woken up in the year 2024, but not the 2024, you know. The good news? Humanity has been part of a galactic community for 77 years. The bad news? You're about to discover that membership has its price, and today, that bill is coming due. Your name is Alex Chun, and you're 34 years old in a world where age means something entirely different than it used to. Thanks to Zetarian medical supplements, you look 25 and could theoretically live to see 300. You work as a terrestrial interface coordinator at Communication Tower 7 in what used to be called New York City, though the skyline bears little resemblance to anything your great-grandparents would have recognized. The alarm that wakes you isn't the jarring buzz of an old Earth device. Instead, it's a gentle harmonic resonance developed by the melodian species from the Veda system, designed to align with human circadian rhythms while gradually increasing consciousness. The sound feels like it's coming from inside your bones, a deep, thrumming note that rises in pitch until your eyes flutter open naturally. You stretch in your bed, and the motion triggers the smart glass windows to gradually increase their transparency. Outside, the morning sun filters through the atmospheric processors that keep the air clean and oxygen-rich. But more striking than the golden light are the shapes moving through the sky above Manhattan's towering spires. 3 correlation-class transport ships from the Kepler colonies are making their morning approach to the commercial district, their hulls gleaming silver against the blue. Their silent passage creates no sonic boom, no roar of engines. The Corothian anti-gravity technology they use makes their movement as quiet as falling snow. Your apartment is on the 83rd floor of a residential tower that extends both upward and downward from street level. The building's design is a fusion of human architecture and Centaurian engineering, creating spaces that somehow feel both intimate and vast. The walls adjust their color temperature based on your biometric readings, currently displaying a soft amber that indicates optimal morning cortisol levels. You swing your legs out of bed, and your feet touch the floor, which warms instantly in response to your body heat. A bathroom mirror activates as you approach, displaying not just your reflection, but a readout of your vital statistics from the biomonitors woven into your sleepwear. Heart rate steady at 58, blood oxygen optimal, stress indicators minimal. The Zetarian supplements you take daily have kept your body in peak condition, though sometimes you wonder what it would feel like to age naturally, to feel your body change and adapt without technological intervention. The shower responds to your presence by adjusting water temperature and pressure to your personal preferences, while the shower walls display a soft blue-green pattern that mimics the aurora borealis. It's a small luxury that never fails to calm you, even though you know the display was designed by Altarian psychologists to produce exactly this emotional response. Everything in your life has been optimized, studied, improved. Sometimes you wonder if there's anything left that's purely, authentically human. Your breakfast consists of protein tubes synthesized from atmospheric nitrogen and carbon dioxide, flavored with extracts from fruits that grow on farms orbiting Jupiter's moons. The texture is peculiar, somehow both familiar and alien, dissolving on your tongue with a slight effervescence that indicates active nutritional delivery systems. Each cube contains exactly the right balance of amino acids, vitamins, and minerals that your body needs, adjusted daily based on biometric readings taken while you sleep. The orange juice, however, is real, grown in vertical farms that stretch a mile high over what used to be Central Park. You pause to savor it, remembering your grandmother's stories about orange groves that once covered thousands of acres in places called Florida and California. The juice tastes exactly like she described, though the oranges themselves are genetically enhanced to provide nutrition profiles impossible in the natural world. Each glass contains immune-boosting compounds derived from alien botanical research, antioxidants that repair cellular damage at the molecular level, and neural enhancement nutrients that improve cognitive function throughout the day. The morning news streams directly into your consciousness through the neural interface, presenting information in a format that bypasses the need for reading or listening. You absorb updates on interstellar commerce, cultural exchange programs, and scientific discoveries from across the galaxy. The vegan colonies have developed a new form of faster-than-light propulsion that could cut travel times between star systems by 30%. The research stations orbiting Betelgeuse have discovered evidence of ancient civilizations that predate the current galactic community by millions of years. The artistic collective from the Tau Ceti system has completed a sculpture that exists in 7 dimensions simultaneously, viewable only through technological interfaces that stimulate perception beyond normal human capabilities. But buried within the routine updates are subtle indicators that suggest all is not well in the galactic community. Resource allocation disputes have increased by 18% over the past quarter. Communication delays between certain star systems have become more frequent, officially attributed to solar flare activity, but following patterns that suggest artificial interference. Most troubling, several key research projects involving human innovations have been classified at security levels that restrict access even to the scientists who develop the technologies. As you eat, your personal AI assistant, voiced by an actress who died 60 years before the aliens arrived, gives you your daily briefing. The voice belongs to Marilyn Monroe, chosen for its combination of warmth and authority, though the personality behind it bears no resemblance to the original performer. The AI has been customized to your psychological profile, delivering information in tones and rhythms designed to maintain optimal attention and emotional stability. "Good morning, Alex," the voice says, its cadence perfectly calibrated to your circadian rhythms. Today's agenda includes several items requiring your immediate attention. 3 new trade agreements need review, each involving technologies that didn't exist until human. Researchers developed theoretical frameworks that alien engineers couldn't replicate independently. The first agreement involves Andromedan silk merchants requesting modifications to textile import quotas. But as the AI provides additional context, you realize the request is more complex than it initially appears. The Andromedans have been trying for decades to reverse engineer the quantum looms that humans developed to weave materials at the molecular level. Their request for increased import quotas is actually a cover for acquiring larger samples of human-made textiles that they can study and potentially duplicate. The mining consortium from Proxima Centauri, the Eye continues, wants to discuss exclusive rights to asteroid belt extraction. However, their proposal includes clauses that would give them access to human-developed mineral processing techniques that could revolutionize resource extraction throughout the galaxy. The economic implications suggest they're offering significantly below market value for technologies worth trillions of credits. The third item troubles you most. There's been another technological breach, the 4th this month, where someone's been selling restricted human innovations to species that aren't authorized to possess them. The technologies involved include quantum computing advances that could enable surveillance capabilities far beyond anything currently available, to galactic law enforcement, biological enhancement techniques that could be weaponized to target specific genetic profiles, and theoretical work on temporal manipulation that could allow limited time travel. Analysis of the breach patterns, the AI explains, suggests coordination rather than random theft. Someone with high-level access to human research facilities is systematically identifying innovations with military applications and ensuring they reach buyers. Who shouldn't possess such capabilities? The security implications are substantial, as are the treaty violations involved. But perhaps most disturbing is the pattern that emerges when you request historical context. Similar technological breaches have been occurring for years, but they've been classified at levels that prevented most personnel from recognizing the scope of the problem. Human innovations in quantum physics, biological manipulation, and advanced computing have been finding their way to species throughout the galaxy without proper authorization or compensation. The breakfast routine continues with a review of overnight communications from across the galaxy, but the information takes on new significance in light of the security briefings. Messages that initially appear routine reveal subtle requests for technical information that goes far beyond normal commercial interests. Cultural exchange proposals that seem innocent include provisions for accessing human research facilities and interviewing key scientists. Diplomatic overtures from minor species suddenly seem more significant when viewed as potential attempts to acquire technologies that could shift the balance of power in their regions of space. You dress in clothes that adjust their insulation and breathability based on the day's weather and your schedule. But the process of choosing what to wear has become more complex since the security briefings began. The fabric is woven with Zentarian fibers that can shift color and pattern based on your emotional state and social context. But today, you consciously override the automatic settings to maintain a specific appearance. The dark blue you select suggests professionalism without being flashy, but more importantly, it incorporates chromatic frequencies that interfere with certain types of surveillance technology. Your jacket appears to be a simple piece of business attire, but it incorporates personal shielding technology that can stop most projectiles and energy weapons. The shielding systems are powered by your body heat and can maintain protection for up to 6 hours of continuous activation. More sophisticated than most people realize, the jacket also includes communication scramblers that prevent electronic eavesdropping and sensors that can detect various forms of alien surveillance technology. The realization that you need such precautions troubles you more than you care to admit. For your entire adult life, violent crime has been virtually eliminated thanks to the Galactic Federation's behavioral modification protocols. Citizens receive regular treatments that reduce aggressive impulses while enhancing empathy and cooperation. The treatments are voluntary in theory, but social and economic pressure makes refusal impractical for anyone who wants to participate in normal society. But recent events have made you question whether the behavioral modifications are as beneficial as they appear. The reduction in human aggression and unpredictability may have made the species easier to manipulate by those who understand how the modifications work. Worse, the treatments may have dulled humanity's ability to recognize and respond to threats that require decisive action rather than cooperative negotiation. The commute to work takes place on the magnetic monorail system that connects all major population centers on the continent. But today you notice details that previously escaped your attention. The trains hover 6 feet above their tracks, propelled by principles of physics that humans barely understood when the technology was gifted to Earth following the integration. Accords of 1952. But now you wonder whether the technology was truly a gift or whether it was provided to ensure human dependence on systems that could be controlled or disabled by outside forces. Your journey covers 37 miles in 8 minutes, a feat that would have been impossible with pre-contact technology. The sensation of traveling at such speeds while feeling no acceleration or vibration still amazes you, though you've experienced it thousands of times. The train's artificial gravity generators maintain normal conditions. Inside the passenger compartment, while the landscape rushes past at velocities that blur individual features into abstract patterns of color and motion. But the route itself tells a story that you're only beginning to understand. The monorail system was designed by alien engineers who insisted that the tracks pass through restored wilderness areas that cover more than 60% of the continent. At the time, this was presented as environmental consciousness, a demonstration of how advanced species balance technological development with ecological preservation. Now you suspect the requirements served other purposes. The wilderness areas provide buffer zones that limit human population density and control how communities develop. The elevated monorail tracks create transportation corridors that can be easily monitored or controlled from space. Most importantly, the system ensures that human populations remain concentrated in specific areas where they can be managed more effectively. The landscapes that pass outside the train windows showcase the results of 77 years of alien-assisted ecological restoration. Through the transparent walls, you watch vast herds of buffalo moving across the prairies of New Jersey, their numbers now exceeding anything that existed before European colonization. The Genetic Restoration Project brought them back from near extinction, using DNA samples and cloning techniques that human scientists couldn't have developed independently for decades or centuries. Overhead, migration flocks of passenger pigeons darken the sky in numbers that would have been unimaginable to your ancestors. The birds were completely extinct until Korathian life scientists recreated them, using genetic information preserved in museum specimens. The project was presented as a gift to humanity, a demonstration of how advanced biotechnology could undo the environmental damage caused by human carelessness. But watching the flocks today, you can't help wondering whether the restoration projects serve purposes beyond environmental rehabilitation. The reintroduced species follow migration patterns that were never part of their original behavior, suggesting genetic modifications that weren't mentioned in the public announcements. Their movements create biological monitoring networks that could provide detailed information about weather patterns, atmospheric composition, and human activity across the continent. More troubling, the restored ecosystems have become dependent on continuing alien technological support. The atmospheric processors that maintain optimal air quality, the quantum fertilizers that ensure soil fertility, and the genetic stabilizers that prevent mutations in the restored species all require regular maintenance using technologies that humans don't fully understand. If that support were withdrawn, the ecological paradise outside your window could collapse within months. Other passengers on the train represent the diversity that defines post-contact Earth. But today, you examine them with new awareness of how that diversity was shaped by forces you're only beginning to understand. There's a woman whose skin has the faint blue tint that indicates Altairian gene therapy for enhanced mathematical processing. The modification allows her to perform calculations that would challenge advanced computers. But it also creates neural pathways that make her thinking more compatible with Altairian logic systems. A man in the corner wears the distinctive breathing apparatus required for someone who's spent extended time in the methane-rich environment of Titan. The device filters Earth's atmosphere to provide the gas mixture his modified lungs now require, but it also contains monitoring systems that track his location and physiological state continuously. His enhanced physiology allows him to work in environments that would kill unmodified humans, but it also makes him dependent on life support technology that could be controlled or disrupted by outside forces. Two teenagers speak in the clicking, whistling language that humans learned from the trill, their conversation too rapid and complex for your ears to follow. The language allows them to communicate concepts that have no equivalent in human speech, expanding their cognitive abilities in ways that conventional education could never achieve. But learning alien languages also changes how the human brain processes information, creating thought patterns that may be more compatible with alien psychology than human intuition. The behavioral modifications that have eliminated disruptive behavior from public spaces create an atmosphere of calm that newcomers often find profoundly peaceful. But you've begun to notice how that calm is maintained. Sensors throughout the transportation system monitor passenger stress levels, releasing targeted pheromones that reduce anxiety and aggression. The harmonic vibrations that keep passengers relaxed also influence brainwave patterns in ways that make people more receptive to suggestion and less likely to question their circumstances. The silence that characterizes public transportation in your world would have seemed alien to previous generations of humans. According to historical archives, pre-contact trains and buses were filled with the noise of conversation, music from personal devices, crying babies, and the general chaos of unmodified human social interaction. The elimination of such disruptions was celebrated as evidence of how much human civilization had improved under alien guidance. But sitting in the perfectly regulated quiet of the monorail car, you find yourself missing sounds you've never actually heard. You wonder what it would be like to overhear strangers arguing about trivial matters, to hear someone laugh too loudly at a private joke, or to witness the spontaneous expressions of emotion that the behavioral modifications have eliminated from daily life. The journey provides time to review the intelligence reports that arrive during the night, each one adding pieces to a puzzle that grows more disturbing with every new detail. The technological breaches that you initially viewed as isolated incidents are part of a pattern that spans decades. Human innovations have been systematically identified, acquired, and distributed to alien species without proper authorization or compensation. But the pattern suggests something more troubling than simple theft or espionage. The technologies being acquired follow a specific progression, beginning with communications and computing advances that would allow comprehensive surveillance, moving to biological and genetic tools that could enable population control, and culminating in weapons systems that could neutralize human resistance if necessary. The recipients of the stolen technologies aren't random buyers in some galactic black market. They're species that have been positioning themselves for increased influence within the Federation, accumulating capabilities that could allow them to reshape galactic civilization according to their preferences. The Krillians are the most obvious threat, but they're not the only species that has been acquiring human innovations through unauthorized channels. As the monorail approaches Communication Tower 7, you realize that your comfortable routine of the past several years has been built on assumptions that may be fundamentally incorrect. The peaceful coexistence and mutual cooperation that defines daily life in post-contact Earth may be a carefully maintained illusion designed to keep humanity productive and compliant while other species acquire the tools they need to ensure their dominance. The tower comes into view as the train begins its final approach, its crystalline structure rising from the heart of Manhattan, like a needle threading the sky. From a distance, it appears to be a single, seamless construction, but closer inspection reveals the complex layering of human and alien technologies that make interstellar communication possible. The building's base spreads across what used to be several city blocks, its foundations extending deep into the bedrock to anchor systems that channel unimaginable amounts of energy. The visible structure above ground is only a small portion of the facility, which extends both upward into the atmosphere and downward into a network of tunnels and chambers that most employees never see. But as you approach your workplace, you can't shake the feeling that you're entering something more significant than an office building. The tower isn't just a communication facility. It's a focal point for relationships that determine humanity's place in the galaxy. And today, you're beginning to suspect that those relationships are more fragile and dangerous than anyone wants to admit. Through the train's transparent walls, you watch vast herds of buffalo moving across the prairies of New Jersey, genetically restored from extinction by Carathian life scientists. Overhead, migration flocks of passenger pigeons, also brought back from the dead, darken the sky in numbers that would have been unimaginable to your ancestors. The aliens, it seems, were horrified by humanity's track record of extinction and made ecological restoration a requirement for continued Federation membership. Other passengers on the train represent the diversity that defines post-contact Earth. There's a woman whose skin has the faint blue tint that indicates Altarian gene therapy for enhanced mathematical processing. A man in the corner wears the distinctive breathing apparatus required for someone who's spent extended time in the methane-rich environment of Titan. Two teenagers speak in the clicking, whistling language that humans learned from the trill, their conversation too rapid and complex for your ears to follow. But it's the silence that strikes you most. In the old world, according to the history archives, public transportation was filled with the noise of conversation, music from personal devices, the hum of inefficient engines. Now, the only sound is the whisper of air moving past the train and the soft harmonic vibrations that keep passengers calm and alert. It's peaceful, you have to admit, but sometimes you wonder what it would be like to hear a baby cry on a train, or someone laugh too loudly, or a couple argue about something trivial. The behavioral modification protocols have eliminated such disruptions, but they've also eliminated something essentially human. Communication Tower 7 rises from the heart of Manhattan, like a crystal needle reaching toward the stars. At its base, the building is half a mile wide, housing diplomatic facilities, translation centers, and cultural exchange programs. But it's the upper levels where you work, in the vast communication arrays that maintain real-time contact with 12 different star systems across a sphere of space 200 light-years in diameter. The elevator to your floor uses Zentierian gravitic technology, meaning the journey upward feels like floating rather than rising. Through the elevator's walls, you can see the city sprawling below, its mix of human and alien architecture creating a skyline that looks like something from a dream. Pyramidal Andromedan residential complexes rise beside the flowing, organic curves of Malodian cultural centers. Human skyscrapers stand in clusters, their designs updated with alien engineering principles that make them stronger, more efficient, more beautiful than anything the old world could have imagined. Your office occupies a space that would have been impossible in the old world, a room with walls that exist only when you need privacy and disappear when you need to collaborate. The technology that creates these flexible boundaries operates on principles that human physicists are still trying to understand, manipulating quantum fields to create barriers that block both sound and light while remaining imperceptible to touch. The view through what passes for a window shows not just the Earth below, but a real-time display of local space traffic that would overwhelm the human eye without technological assistance. Your neural interface processes the visual information, highlighting significant vessels while filtering out routine traffic. Ships from a dozen worlds move in carefully choreographed patterns, their courses managed by traffic control systems that process calculations too complex for human minds to grasp without technological assistance. But today, the familiar display reveals anomalies that set your nerves on edge. Several Krillian vessels have taken up positions that appear routine, but actually provide optimal surveillance of Earth's communication networks. Their formation suggests coordination that goes beyond standard commercial or diplomatic protocols. More troubling, the ships are equipped with sensor arrays that shouldn't be necessary for their stated missions of cultural exchange and resource negotiation. Your first task of the day involves reviewing overnight communications from the Rigel system, where what initially appeared to be a simple trade dispute has evolved into something far more complex. The Rigelians want to increase prices for rare Earth elements by 30%, claiming that extraction costs have risen due to seismic activity on their mining worlds. But your analysis of geological data suggests the price increase is artificial, designed to pressure human colonies into accepting less favorable terms for the biomedical technologies they desperately need. The communication console responds to your touch, but today you notice features that previously escaped your attention. The interface connects directly to your neural pathways, allowing you to process information at superhuman speeds, but the connection also provides access to your thoughts and memories. Every query you make, every analysis you perform, Every decision you consider becomes part of a data stream that flows to monitoring systems you've never questioned. The three-dimensional map of the Rigel system that appears before you would have taken human economists months to create using pre-contact technology. Trade route projections, resource availability assessments, and economic impact models update in real time as new information arrives from across the galaxy. The data streams directly into your consciousness through the neural interface, but you're beginning to realize that the technology also provides unprecedented access to human thought processes. As you work through the morning's communications, patterns emerge that suggest coordination between species that officially maintain only limited contact. The Rigelians' price increases coincide with similar actions by resource suppliers throughout the galaxy, creating artificial scarcity that forces human colonies to accept increasingly unfavorable trade terms. The Andromedans' requests for textile samples align with biological research projects that could lead to the development of materials that make human innovations obsolete. But the most disturbing pattern involves the Krillians themselves. While maintaining a low profile in official Federation politics, they've been systematically positioning themselves to control critical infrastructure throughout galactic civilization. Their agents have secured key positions in communication networks, transportation systems, and resource distribution centers. Their influence grows not through military conquest or economic domination, but through patient infiltration of the systems that hold galactic society together. The morning's work requires using communication protocols that you've never questioned, but now view with new suspicion. Every message you send is processed through translation systems that don't just convert between languages, but analyze the psychological implications of different phrasings. The systems predict how various alien species will interpret human communication patterns, but they also provide detailed information about human psychology to anyone with access to the translation databases. Your analysis of the Rigelian trade dispute requires delving into economic models that reveal just how dependent human civilization has become on resources from other worlds. Earth's population of 8 billion people consumes materials and energy at rates that would be impossible to sustain using planetary resources alone. The atmospheric processors that keep the air clean, the fusion reactors that provide unlimited energy, and the advanced manufacturing systems that produce everything from food to clothing all require inputs from dozens of different star systems. The realization strikes you with unexpected force. Humanity has become completely dependent on a galactic supply chain that could be disrupted at any time. If the aliens decided to cut off trade with Earth, human civilization would face collapse within months. The comfortable abundance that defines daily life in your world exists only because other species choose to maintain it. But as you dig deeper into the economic data, an even more troubling picture emerges. The trade relationships that sustain Earth aren't based on mutual benefit or altruistic cooperation. Human colonies throughout the galaxy provide resources and labor that generate enormous wealth for alien species, but the benefits that flow back to Earth are carefully calibrated to maintain dependence rather than enable independence. The biomedical technologies that extend human lifespan and eliminate disease require regular updates and maintenance that only alien scientists can provide. The fusion reactors that power human civilization use fuel isotopes that must be imported from other star systems. Even the atmospheric processors that maintain Earth's environment require components that are manufactured using techniques that humans aren't allowed to access. Your work throughout the morning involves crafting responses that thread the needle between diplomatic courtesy and economic necessity, but the process has become increasingly complex as you realize how many factors you weren't previously aware of. Every communication must be analyzed not just for its immediate content, but for its potential implications in a larger game that you're only beginning to understand. The Rigelians, for instance, interpret directness as aggression, so your message about their artificial price increases must convey firmness through subtle implications rather than explicit statements. But the subtlety required creates ambiguities that could be exploited by anyone monitoring the communications. Your carefully worded diplomatic language might be seen as acceptance of their terms by species that don't understand human communication patterns. The Andromedans, by contrast, view any ambiguity as deception, requiring precise, unambiguous language even when delivering uncomfortable truths. But their obsession with clarity creates other vulnerabilities. Your direct responses to their requests provide detailed information about human capabilities and limitations that could be used against Earth's interests by anyone with access to the communication logs. By midday, you've processed 47 separate communications from 8 different star systems, but the volume of work pales beside the complexity of the political and economic relationships involved. Trade agreements that initially appear routine contain clauses that could fundamentally alter humanity's position in the galactic community. Cultural exchange proposals that seem innocent include provisions for accessing human research facilities and interviewing key scientists. Diplomatic overtures from minor species suddenly seem more significant when viewed as potential attempts to acquire technologies that could shift the balance of power in their regions of space. The lunch break provides an opportunity to review intelligence reports that arrive during the morning, each one adding pieces to a puzzle that grows more disturbing with every new detail. The technological breaches that initially appeared to be isolated incidents are part of a comprehensive strategy that spans decades and involves multiple alien species working in coordination. The stolen human innovations follow a specific progression that suggests careful planning rather than opportunistic theft. Early breaches focused on communication and computing technologies that would enable comprehensive surveillance of human activities. Later acquisitions targeted biological and genetic research that could be used to develop weapons or control mechanisms specifically designed to affect human physiology. The most recent thefts involve theoretical work on space-time manipulation that could provide unprecedented military capabilities. But perhaps most troubling is the pattern of how the stolen technologies are being distributed. Rather than being sold on black markets or used by individual criminal organizations, the innovations are making their way to species that have been positioning themselves for increased influence within the Federation. The recipients are accumulating capabilities that could allow them to reshape galactic civilization according to their preferences, with humanity playing a much reduced role in the future they're planning. The afternoon's work takes on new urgency as you realize that the routine diplomatic communications you're processing may be the last opportunities to prevent a fundamental shift in galactic power relationships. The virtual meeting scheduled with representatives from 3 different species officially concerns new safety protocols for interstellar shipping, but the real agenda involves questions that could determine humanity's future in the galactic community. The safety protocol discussion involves extensive analysis of how to prevent contamination between biospheres that evolved independently, but the conversation reveals underlying tensions that go far beyond technical concerns. The Centaurians are concerned about microorganisms that could devastate their agricultural systems, but their proposed solutions would require human colonies to accept monitoring systems that could be used for surveillance. The Carathians worry about quantum field fluctuations that might interfere with their navigation technology, but their recommendations would give them access to human research facilities where sensitive work is conducted. As always, humans find themselves caught in the middle, trying to balance competing concerns while protecting Earth's interests. But today, you're acutely aware that the balancing act may be more precarious than anyone realizes. The other species in the meeting possess capabilities and knowledge that they haven't shared with humanity, while Earth's representatives must navigate the discussion without revealing how much they've discovered about unauthorized technology transfers and hidden agendas. The cultural consultation that follows proves even more complex than the technical negotiations. The Altarians want to understand human concepts of individual artistic expression, which conflicts with their society's emphasis on collective creation. The request initially seems like a straightforward cultural exchange, but deeper analysis reveals troubling implications. The Altarians' interest in human creativity isn't motivated by appreciation for artistic diversity. Their society has reached a technological plateau where further progress requires innovations that their collective approach to problem-solving can't generate. They need to understand how human individuals develop original ideas and pursue personal visions that challenge conventional thinking. In other words, they want to reverse engineer the cognitive processes that make humanity valuable to the galactic community. Explaining the relationship between individual expression and cultural innovation requires delving into philosophical concepts that don't translate easily across species barriers. You find yourself describing the difference between influence and imitation, between homage and theft, between tradition and innovation, all while knowing that your words are being analyzed by minds that process information in ways fundamentally different from human cognition. But the real challenge lies in maintaining the delicate balance between cultural sharing and intellectual protection. The information you provide could help the Altarians develop new forms of creativity that benefit their society, but it could also enable them to manipulate human creative processes for their own purposes. The same insights that could lead to beneficial cultural exchange might also be used to undermine humanity's unique contributions to galactic civilization. As the afternoon progresses, you become increasingly aware of the sophisticated monitoring systems that track every aspect of your work. The neural interface that allows you to process information at superhuman speeds also provides unprecedented access to your thoughts and decision-making processes. Every analysis you perform, every conclusion you reach, every moment of insight or inspiration becomes part of a data stream that flows to destinations you've never considered. The realization that your mind is essentially an open book to anyone with access to the monitoring systems fundamentally changes how you approach your work. Every thought must be carefully considered, not just for its immediate relevance, but for its potential implications if accessed by hostile forces. The cognitive enhancement that makes you effective at your job also makes you vulnerable to manipulation and exploitation. But perhaps most disturbing is the gradual recognition that the monitoring isn't limited to work-related activities. The neural interface remains active at all times, tracking your emotional responses, analyzing your personal relationships, and building detailed profiles of your psychological patterns and behavioral tendencies. The technology that enhances your capabilities also provides complete access to your inner life. The priority communication from the Federation Council that arrives during the afternoon represents the culmination of everything you've been discovering throughout the day. The message carries security classifications that require your highest clearance levels, but even with full access, significant portions of the content remain redacted. What you can read paints a picture of galactic civilization under threat from forces that have been operating in secret for decades. The unauthorized technology transfers that initially appeared to be criminal activities are actually part of a comprehensive strategy to reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. The Krillian Empire, working in coordination with several other species, has been systematically acquiring human innovations while positioning itself to control critical infrastructure throughout Federation space. But the scope of the threat extends far beyond technology theft. The communication blackouts that have been occurring with increasing frequency aren't equipment failures or natural phenomena. They're deliberate acts of sabotage designed to test the Federation's response capabilities while isolating key star systems from the communication networks that hold galactic civilization together. The pattern of blackouts suggests a carefully planned campaign that could escalate to complete information warfare. If the Krillians and their allies succeed in gaining control over galactic communication networks, they'll be able to isolate any system that opposes their agenda while coordinating their own activities across vast distances. The peaceful cooperation that defines Federation civilization could be replaced by authoritarian control exercised through technological dominance. But perhaps most chilling is the realization that Earth has been specifically targeted for neutralization. The stolen human technologies aren't just being acquired for their general utility. They're being studied and reverse-engineered to develop countermeasures that could neutralize humanity's unique contributions to galactic civilization. If the Krillians succeed in replicating human innovations while eliminating the humans who create them, they'll possess unprecedented capabilities without facing competition from the species that developed those capabilities. The intelligence report includes a timeline that suggests the threat is more immediate than anyone previously realized. The systematic preparation that has been underway for decades is approaching completion. The Krillian fleet movements that have been dismissed as routine military exercises are actually positioning forces for coordinated action throughout Federation space. The window for preventing their takeover of galactic civilization may be measured in days rather than months or years. The Melodians, for instance, don't have a concept of individual ownership as humans understand it. Their requests for Earth's musical archives have to be carefully worded to explain that while they can access the music, they cannot own it in the way they might own a physical object. The Centaurians, by contrast, have such a rigid understanding of property rights that they've submitted a 40-page legal document requesting permission to study the quantum fluctuations in Earth's atmosphere, as if the random motion of particles could be owned by anyone. Lunch is delivered to your office by a service drone that navigates the building's air corridors with the same precision that ships use to travel between stars. The food represents a fusion of Earth and alien cuisine that has developed over 7 decades of cultural exchange. The protein comes from vat-grown cells that were originally designed to feed long-distance space travelers. The vegetables are enhanced with minerals from Carathian soil that provide nutrition impossible to obtain from Earth-based agriculture alone. The flavors are complex, satisfying, and somehow leave you feeling energized rather than sluggish. As you eat, you review the afternoon's agenda. A virtual meeting with representatives from 3 different species to discuss new safety protocols for interstellar shipping. A cultural consultation about human art forms that the Altarians want to incorporate into their educational systems, and a priority communication from the Federation Council about what they're calling technological irregularities that have been detected in several star systems. The afternoon passes in a blur of complex negotiations and careful diplomacy. The safety protocol meeting involves extensive discussion of how to prevent contamination between biospheres that evolved independently. The Centaurians are concerned about microorganisms that could devastate their agricultural systems. The Carathians worry about quantum field fluctuations that might interfere with their navigation technology. The humans, as always, are caught in the middle, trying to balance competing concerns while protecting Earth's interests. The cultural consultation proves more complex than expected. The Altarians want to understand human concepts of individual artistic expression, which conflicts with their society's emphasis on collective creation. Explaining why humans value originality and personal vision requires delving into philosophical concepts that don't translate easily across species barriers. You find yourself describing the difference between influence and imitation, between homage and theft, between tradition and innovation, all while knowing that your words are being analyzed by minds that process information in ways fundamentally different from human cognition. But it's the priority communication from the Federation Council that dominates your attention as the day draws toward evening. The message is marked with security classifications that require your highest clearance levels, and even then, the content is partially redacted. What you can read is troubling enough. Over the past 6 months, the Council has detected unauthorized transfers of human technology to species that are not cleared to receive it. Not alien technology being shared with humans, but human innovations being sold or traded to aliens without proper authorization. The technologies in question include quantum computing advances, biological enhancement techniques, and most concerning of all, theoretical work on faster-than-light communication that could revolutionize how the galaxy stays connected. The implications are staggering. If humans are secretly selling their innovations, it represents a violation of every treaty that governs Federation membership. But more than that, it suggests that Earth's position in the galactic community is being manipulated by forces that don't answer to any government or organization you're aware of. The message includes a list of suspect transactions and communication patterns, and as you review the data, a pattern begins to emerge. The unauthorized technology transfers are being coordinated through back channels that bypass official Federation oversight. Someone or some group has created a shadow network that operates parallel to the legitimate systems you work with every day. As evening approaches, you prepare to leave the office with your mind churning over the implications of what you've discovered. The unauthorized technology transfers represent more than just treaty violations. They suggest that humanity's relationship with the galactic community is built on foundations less stable than anyone wants to admit. The journey home takes you through the same transformed landscape you traveled that morning, but now the view seems different. The restored ecosystems, the gleaming architecture, the peaceful coexistence of human and alien communities, all represent achievements that would have been impossible without Federation membership. But they also represent a dependence that runs deeper than most people realize. Earth's population has grown to over 8 billion people, sustained by technologies and resources that come from other worlds. The atmospheric processors that keep the air clean, the fusion reactors that provide unlimited energy, the medical advances that have eliminated most diseases and extended human lifespan to centuries rather than decades. All of these depend on maintaining good relationships with alien species who could withdraw their support at any time. Your apartment building comes into view as the monorail approaches the residential district, its lights beginning to twinkle as the day shifts toward night. But tonight, the familiar sight brings less comfort than usual. You've spent the day discovering that the foundation of human civilization rests on agreements and relationships that someone is actively undermining. The question that troubles you most isn't who is responsible, but what happens to Earth if the Federation decides that humanity can't be trusted. You arrive home to find a message waiting in your personal communication system. The sender's identity is masked, but the content is clear enough. The Council knows about the technology transfers. Emergency session tomorrow. Your attendance is required. The message includes coordinates for a location you don't recognize and a timestamp that falls outside normal business hours. As you prepare for bed, you find yourself looking out at the city skyline with new eyes. The ships moving through the evening sky, the alien architecture integrated seamlessly with human buildings, the peaceful coexistence that has defined your entire adult life, all of it suddenly seems fragile. You've spent your career facilitating the relationship between Earth and the galaxy, but tonight you're beginning to understand how little you actually know about the forces that shape that relationship. Sleep comes eventually, aided by the harmonic resonance generators that regulate your apartment's ambient environment. But even in dreams, you find yourself wondering what tomorrow will bring, and whether the world you wake up to will still be the same one you've known all your life. The emergency meeting takes place in a facility you didn't know existed, hidden beneath the foundations of Communication Tower 7. The space feels ancient, despite being built with the most advanced technology available, its walls lined with materials that seem to absorb sound and light equally. The architecture suggests construction that predates the official establishment of the tower, implying that preparations for this moment have been underway for far longer than anyone publicly acknowledges. Around the circular table, 23 other terrestrial interface coordinators sit in chairs that adjust automatically to support optimal posture and circulation. But these aren't the colleagues you work with on a daily basis. Their faces are familiar, but their demeanor suggests training and knowledge that goes far beyond standard diplomatic protocols. These are people who have been living double lives, maintaining normal professional facades while participating in activities that could determine humanity's survival. The person who called the meeting introduces herself as Director Sarah Okafor, though her title and authority extend far beyond anything in the official Federation bureaucracy. She's older than most people you encounter in daily life, her appearance suggesting she's chosen to age naturally rather than rely on life extension technologies. Her presence commands attention in a way that has nothing to do with technological enhancement or alien modifications. What I'm about to tell you, she begins, will fundamentally change your understanding of Earth's relationship with the Galactic Federation. For 77 years, humanity has believed that we joined the Federation as junior partners, grateful for the knowledge and protection of more advanced species. That narrative isn't just incomplete. It's a deliberately constructed fiction designed to hide the true nature of our situation. The room's lighting dims as holographic displays activate around the table, but the images that appear are unlike anything you've seen in official Federation communications. These are star charts showing resource flows and technological developments across the galaxy, communication logs that reveal conversations between alien species discussing humanity in terms you've never heard before, and trade data that demonstrates economic relationships far more complex than anything you've been working with. But it's the pattern that emerges from the data that fundamentally challenges everything you believed about galactic civilization. The technological innovations that define modern life, from faster-than-light communication to biological enhancement therapies to the quantum computing systems that manage interstellar commerce, didn't originate with ancient alien civilizations sharing their wisdom with grateful newcomers. They originated with human researchers whose work was acquired, developed, and distributed throughout the galaxy without proper acknowledgement or compensation. The faster-than-light communication protocols that hold the Federation together, Director Okafor continues, were based on theoretical work done by human physicists in the 1960s, decades before official first contact. The medical technologies that extend life and eliminate disease incorporate biological insights that could only come from a species that evolved on a world as biologically diverse as Earth. The quantum manipulation techniques that power interstellar transportation systems were developed from mathematical models created by human mathematicians working on problems that alien species couldn't conceptualize. The implications crash over you like a wave, fundamentally inverting your understanding of humanity's place in the universe. You're not the recipients of alien charity, struggling to prove your worth to more advanced species. You're the source of innovations that have revolutionized galactic civilization, and the entire structure of Federation society has been designed to exploit that fact while keeping humanity unaware of its true value. But the revelation brings more questions than answers. If humanity is so technologically valuable, why maintain the fiction of junior partnership? Why hide the true nature of Earth's contributions to galactic progress? Why create elaborate systems to make humans believe they're dependent on alien wisdom when the reality is the reverse? Director Okafor seems to read your thoughts, her expression grim as she prepares to deliver information that will answer those questions in ways you don't want to hear. Because, she says, the moment humanity realizes its true value, the power dynamic in the galaxy shifts completely. And not everyone is prepared for that change. The holographic displays shift to show real-time monitoring of communication networks throughout Federation space, but the data streams are more comprehensive than anything you've had access to in your official work. The analysis systems highlight patterns of information flow that reveal the hidden structure of galactic civilization, showing how knowledge and resources move between species according to relationships that bear little resemblance to the official diplomatic arrangements. 3 different star systems have experienced complete communication blackouts in the past 48 hours, but the affected regions weren't chosen randomly. Each represents a critical node in the network that connects human colonies to Earth and to each other. The blackouts follow a pattern that suggests someone is systematically testing their ability to isolate humanity from the broader galactic community while maintaining their own communication capabilities. The Krillian Empire, Director Okafor explains, has spent the past decade positioning itself to control the flow of information throughout Federation space. But their strategy goes far beyond simple technological acquisition. They've been placing their agents in key positions throughout the galactic bureaucracy, infiltrating research institutions where human innovations are developed, and establishing relationships with other species that share their vision of galactic order The Krillians are a species you've had minimal contact with during your career. And now you understand why. Their home system lies at the edge of Federation space, a location that was presented as evidence of their peaceful intentions and limited ambitions. But according to the intelligence data displayed around the table, that peripheral position has been carefully maintained to support operations that require distance from Federation oversight. Krillian agents have infiltrated communication networks throughout the galaxy, not as crude spies or saboteurs, but as trusted employees and colleagues who have spent years building relationships and gaining access to sensitive systems. They've positioned themselves in trade organizations where they can influence economic relationships between species. They've gained positions in research facilities where they can access human innovations before those innovations become public knowledge. Most importantly, they've established influence within the Federation Council itself, where they can shape policy decisions that affect the entire galactic community. The communication blackouts are a test. Director Okafor continues, her voice carrying the weight of someone who has watched a catastrophe unfold over many years. They're determining how effectively they can isolate star systems and control information flow without triggering responses that would reveal their capabilities. If they succeed in their current objectives, they'll be in a position to dictate terms to the entire galactic community, but the most disturbing revelation is yet to come. The holographic displays shift again, this time showing data collected from Earth itself. Communication patterns, resource flows, population movements, transportation systems, all tracked and analyzed with a precision that suggests surveillance on a scale you've never imagined. Every aspect of human civilization has been monitored, mapped, and prepared for control or destruction. The Krillians aren't just trying to control the galaxy, Director Okafor says quietly, her words carrying implications that make the room feel suddenly cold. They're planning to eliminate the source of the innovations that threaten their vision of galactic order. They've concluded that as long as humanity exists, the galaxy will remain too unpredictable and dynamic for their preferred form of stability. They're planning to eliminate Earth. The silence that follows her words feels like a physical presence in the room. Everything you've built your life around, everything you've worked to maintain and improve, is under threat from an enemy you didn't know existed. The comfortable routine of interstellar diplomacy and trade negotiation suddenly seems naive in the face of a threat that could end human civilization. But the briefing continues with revelations that make the situation even more complex and dangerous. The Krillians aren't acting alone in their campaign to reshape galactic civilization. They've formed alliances with other species that share their preference for order over innovation, stability over growth, control over freedom. The coalition they've assembled represents nearly 30% of Federation membership, including species that control critical resources and strategic locations throughout the galaxy. The Centaurians, Director Okafor explains, provide the technological expertise needed to reverse engineer human innovations. Their society's obsession with precision and standardization makes them natural allies for anyone seeking to impose uniform systems across diverse populations. They've been working for years to develop alternatives to human technologies that would eliminate the galaxy's dependence on Earth's continued cooperation, the Andromedans, despite their official requests for cultural exchange, have been systematically acquiring information about human social structures, psychological patterns, and organizational methods. Their goal isn't to understand humanity for purposes of friendship or cooperation, but to develop more effective methods of control and manipulation. They're building psychological profiles that could be used to predict and influence human behavior on a massive scale. Even species that you viewed as neutral or friendly have been compromised by Krillian influence. The Melodians, whose harmonic technologies create the peaceful atmosphere that characterizes modern human society, have been subtly modifying their systems to make human populations more passive and compliant. The behavioral modification protocols that eliminated violence and social disruption from daily life weren't just therapeutic tools. They were preparation for a society that would accept authoritarian control without resistance. What do we do? The question comes from one of your colleagues, though it might as well have come from any of you. The scope of the threat is so vast, the preparations so comprehensive, the enemy's advantages so overwhelming, that any response seems inadequate. Director Okafor's answer reveals the existence of preparations that match the enemies in scope and sophistication. We implement protocols that have been in development since the early days of Federation membership. Earth hasn't been passively accepting alien guidance for 77 years. We've been preparing for exactly this scenario while maintaining the appearance of grateful dependence. The meeting continues for hours, covering contingency plans and emergency protocols that transform your understanding of human civilization's true capabilities. The communication networks that appear to rely on alien technology actually incorporate human innovations that provide backup systems and hidden capabilities. The transportation infrastructure that seems dependent on Federation cooperation includes military applications that were built into the original designs. The research facilities that appear to be collaborative efforts between human and alien scientists actually serve dual purposes, conducting official projects while secretly developing technologies that could be used for defense or retaliation. But perhaps most importantly, the peaceful human populations that seem unprepared for conflict have been receiving training and preparation through systems so subtle that most people don't realize they're participating in them. The educational programs that teach children about galactic citizenship also provide instruction in strategic thinking and tactical awareness. The recreational activities that occupy adults during their leisure time include simulations that develop skills relevant to crisis management and coordinated resistance. The behavioral modification protocols that eliminated aggression and violence from human society weren't just imposed by alien technology. They were modified by human scientists to preserve capacity for appropriate responses to existential threats. The calm compliance that characterizes daily life in your world can be reversed when circumstances require decisive action. But the most crucial revelation involves the true nature of human technological contributions to galactic civilization. The innovations that other species have been acquiring and exploiting represent only a fraction of human research and development capabilities. The most advanced and powerful technologies developed by human scientists have been kept secret, hidden in research facilities that don't appear on any official records, protected by security systems that combine human and alien technologies in ways that create unprecedented defensive capabilities. When the Krillian attack comes, Director Okafor explains, they'll be facing capabilities they don't know exist. The weapons systems that will defend Earth were developed using principles that no other species in the galaxy understands. The defensive technologies that will protect human populations were designed specifically to counter the most advanced threats that alien civilizations can deploy, but the plan requires more than technological superiority or military preparation. It requires a fundamental transformation in how humanity relates to the galactic community. The fiction of human weakness and dependence that has defined Earth's relationships with other species for 77 years must be abandoned permanently. Humanity will reveal itself as the technological and intellectual powerhouse it has always been, but that revelation will force every species in the galaxy to reconsider their assumptions about power, cooperation, and survival. The transition won't be peaceful or gradual. Species that have built their own advancement on exploiting human innovations will resist any change that threatens their advantages. The economic relationships that sustain galactic commerce will require complete restructuring. The political arrangements that govern Federation society will need to be rebuilt from the ground up. But the alternative is worse than the disruption that accompanies change. If the Krillians succeed in their current objectives, galactic civilization will be transformed into something that eliminates the diversity and innovation that make interstellar society worth preserving. The species that survive the transition will exist as components in a system designed to maintain stability through control rather than promote growth through freedom. The intelligence briefing concludes with a timeline that makes the threat immediate rather than theoretical. The Krillian fleet movements that have been dismissed as routine military exercises are actually positioning forces for coordinated action throughout Federation space. Their agents embedded in critical systems are preparing to implement communication blackouts and infrastructure sabotage that will prevent effective resistance. The window for preventing their takeover of galactic civilization is measured in hours rather than days. The attack on Earth will come within the next 72 hours, Director Okafor states with the certainty of someone who has been tracking enemy preparations for years. When it does, humanity's response will demonstrate capabilities that will surprise not just the Krillians, but every species in the galaxy. The peaceful, dependent junior partner that other species think they know will reveal itself as something entirely different. The emergency protocols that follow transform Communication Tower 7 from a diplomatic facility into a military command center, almost overnight. Personnel who you thought were simple administrators turn out to be key figures in defense networks that have been operating in secret for decades. The maintenance systems that you assumed were routine building management actually support technologies that can defend against attacks from space or coordinate resistance operations across the entire planet. Your own role evolves from diplomatic communication to strategic coordination, but the skills you've developed in your official capacity prove directly relevant to the new responsibilities. The ability to facilitate understanding between different species becomes crucial when coordinating defensive efforts that involve both human and alien technologies. The experience in managing complex negotiations proves valuable when making decisions that could affect the survival of entire populations. But perhaps most importantly, the psychological adaptation required to maintain normal operations while preparing for existential conflict draws on mental disciplines that you've been developing throughout your career without realizing it. The ability to process enormous amounts of information while maintaining emotional stability becomes essential when making decisions under pressure that could determine the future of human civilization. The 72 hours that follow feel like a lifetime compressed into an impossibly brief span. From your new position in the underground command center, you watch as the surface world continues its apparently normal routine while hidden preparations reach their final stages. Transportation systems that appear to malfunction are actually being reconfigured for military purposes, with civilian infrastructure converted to support defensive operations without disrupting the daily life of populations who don't yet know they're under threat. Communication networks that seem to be failing are actually being rerouted through backup systems that the Krillians can't detect or intercept. The backup systems don't just provide alternative communication capabilities. They enable coordination between defensive forces across the entire planet while maintaining the illusion that Earth's communication infrastructure has been compromised. Most remarkably, the apparent chaos and confusion that characterizes public communications during this period is carefully orchestrated to encourage specific responses from the enemy. The Krillian agents monitoring Earth systems see exactly what they expect to see: a technologically dependent civilization struggling to maintain basic operations without alien assistance. The reality hidden beneath that facade is a coordinated defense network implementing strategies that were developed over decades of careful planning. The deception extends to space-based observations as well. The satellites and monitoring stations that track Earth's activities from orbit detect signs of technological breakdown and social disruption that suggest the planet is vulnerable to attack. The defensive systems that are actually being activated operate using principles that alien monitoring technologies can't detect, creating the illusion of weakness while preparing overwhelming defensive capabilities. The Krillian fleet, confident that their sabotage has left Earth defenseless, accelerates its approach and abandons the stealth protocols that might have allowed them to avoid detection by systems they don't know exist. The intelligence data flowing to your command center shows 37 vessels moving toward the Sol system with formation patterns optimized for planetary assault, rather than space combat. But the intelligence also reveals information that the enemy doesn't possess about human defensive capabilities. The weapons systems that will engage the Krillian fleet weren't developed using alien technology or guided by Federation technical assistance. They represent purely human innovations in physics and engineering, creating capabilities that no other species in the galaxy can match or counter effectively. The asteroid belt that the Krillians must pass through to reach Earth appears to be empty space monitored only by standard Federation observation systems. In reality, it's been converted into a defensive network that can engage threats using gravitational manipulation, directed energy weapons, and kinetic projectiles operating at velocities that approach significant fractions of light speed. The defense platforms hidden throughout the solar system don't just provide overwhelming firepower. They demonstrate technological principles that will force every species in the galaxy to reconsider their understanding of human capabilities. The peaceful junior partner that other species thought they knew will reveal itself as a civilization capable of defending itself against any threat while projecting power across interstellar distances. When the attack comes, it unfolds with a precision that reveals both the thoroughness of the Krillian plan and the completeness of humanity's preparation. The enemy fleet emerges from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system in perfect formation, their approach vector calculated to minimize exposure to known human defensive systems, while maximizing their ability to coordinate planetary assault operations. But the defensive systems they encounter are far beyond anything they prepared for or could have anticipated. The first wave of weapons fire comes from platforms they didn't know existed, using technologies that operate outside their understanding of physics. Gravity field generators trap half the enemy fleet in spatial distortions that prevent maneuvering or escape, while directed energy weapons destroy their targets with efficiency that demonstrates human engineering capabilities that exceed anything else in the galaxy. The battle itself lasts less than an hour, but its implications reshape galactic civilization in ways that will continue for generations. The Krillian fleet, confident in their technological superiority and comprehensive planning, finds itself completely outmatched by defensive systems that they couldn't detect until those systems engaged them. The survivors, trapped by gravitational fields that prevent faster-than-light escape, face the choice between surrender and complete destruction. But more significant than the military victory is the revelation of human capabilities that have been hidden for 77 years. The weapons systems that destroyed the Krillian fleet incorporate innovations in fundamental physics that represent advances beyond anything achieved by any other species in known space. The defensive technologies that protected Earth demonstrate engineering capabilities that suggest human civilization has been developing along trajectories that other species never imagined. The communication systems that coordinate the defensive response operate using principles that bypass all known methods of interception or jamming. The command and control networks that manage the battle function with speed and precision that suggest computational capabilities far beyond anything other species possess. Most importantly, the integration of technologies that appear to be purely human innovations creates synergies that amplify their effectiveness beyond what any individual component could achieve. The aftermath of the battle brings immediate changes that transform not just Earth's relationship with the galactic community, but the entire structure of interstellar civilization. The Federation Council, faced with undeniable evidence of Krillian aggression and human capabilities, convenes emergency sessions that must address questions no one was prepared to consider. The revelation that humanity has been the source of most critical technologies in galactic civilization forces a complete reevaluation of economic relationships between species. The trade agreements that governed resource flows and technology transfers were based on assumptions about human capabilities that have proven to be completely incorrect. The new agreements that emerge from emergency negotiations provide Earth with resources and respect proportional to its actual contributions, rather than its perceived status. But the changes extend far beyond economics or politics. The communication networks that hold galactic civilization together must be redesigned with human oversight and participation that reflects humanity's true role in their development and operation. The research collaborations that drive scientific progress require new structures that acknowledge human leadership in fields where other species previously assumed dominance. Perhaps most importantly, the crisis forces every species in the galaxy to confront assumptions they've made about power, cooperation, and survival. The peaceful coexistence that has defined Federation civilization proves to be more fragile than anyone realized, dependent on relationships and agreements that were based on incomplete or deliberately false information. The diversity and innovation that make galactic civilization dynamic and adaptable also create vulnerabilities that can be exploited by those who prefer uniformity and control. The revelations about Krillian activities and human capabilities demonstrate that the galaxy's most valuable resources are intellectual and creative rather than material, making the species that can generate new ideas and solve unprecedented problems more important than those who simply possess advanced technologies. The transition that follows the immediate crisis involves fundamental changes in how interstellar society functions, but the process reveals strengths and capabilities throughout the galactic community that were previously hidden or undervalued. Species that appeared to be minor players in galactic affairs turn out to possess unique capabilities that become crucial when applied to new challenges. The diversity that the Krillians sought to eliminate proves to be essential for building a more resilient and adaptive form of civilization. The morning brings news that confirms your worst fears. The communication blackouts have spread to 7 star systems, creating dark zones where no information can flow in or out. Within those zones, according to the limited intelligence available, Krillian fleets are taking control of critical infrastructure and strategic resources. But more immediately concerning are the developments on Earth itself. 3 major communication towers have experienced what officials are calling technical difficulties, though the pattern suggests deliberate sabotage. Transportation networks are experiencing delays and cancellations that make it difficult for people to move between major population centers. And most ominously, several key government and Federation liaison personnel have failed to report for duty. Your own work has taken on a new urgency. Instead of facilitating routine trade negotiations and cultural exchanges, you're now part of a desperate effort to maintain contact with loyal Federation worlds, while identifying which star systems might be compromised by Krillian influence. The task requires using communication protocols you didn't know existed, sending messages through relay networks that bypass the main Federation channels. Each transmission has to be coded and encrypted in ways that will be recognizable to legitimate recipients while appearing to be routine administrative traffic to anyone monitoring the networks. But the most challenging aspect of your new role is psychological. Every communication you process, every alien official you interact with, every colleague you work alongside could potentially be compromised. The comfortable trust that has defined your career has been replaced by constant vigilance and the growing realization that the enemy could be anyone. The breakthrough comes during what should have been a routine check of overnight communications from the vegan colonies. Hidden within a standard trade report, you discover a message that uses coding protocols you recognize but haven't seen in years. The sender is identifying themselves as a member of what they call the Terran Liberation Front, and they claim to have critical information about Krillian operations in the outer systems. The message is brief but specific. A Krillian fleet of 37 vessels is moving toward the Sol system, traveling along routes that will keep them hidden from Federation monitoring stations. Their estimated arrival time is 72 hours. Their mission, according to intelligence the sender claims to have acquired, is to neutralize Earth's communication capabilities and capture key personnel for interrogation. You forward the message through secure channels to Director Okafor and the emergency command structure that has emerged over the past 48 hours. But even as you follow protocol, you're aware that you could be passing along disinformation designed to trigger responses that serve Krillian interests. The uncertainty is maddening. Every decision could be the right choice that saves human civilization, or the wrong choice that dooms it. You're operating with incomplete information, facing an enemy whose capabilities and intentions you don't fully understand, while trying to preserve relationships and systems that may have already been compromised beyond recovery. The afternoon brings a development that changes everything. Director Okafor contacts you with instructions to join an emergency evacuation from Communication Tower 7. The evacuation isn't for safety reasons, she explains, but because the facility is about to be used for something that requires all civilian personnel to be elsewhere. The journey to the evacuation point takes you through parts of the building you've never seen before. Emergency systems have been activated, transforming the familiar office spaces into something that resembles a military command center. Personnel you don't recognize, wearing uniforms that combine human and alien design elements, are working at stations that monitor activity throughout the solar system and beyond. The evacuation takes place using transportation systems that must have been built in secret over many years. The vehicle that carries you away from the tower moves through underground tunnels that connect major infrastructure points throughout the metropolitan area. The engineering required to build such a system without public knowledge suggests a level of preparation that dates back decades. Your destination is a facility that appears to be built into the bedrock beneath the city, its construction incorporating architectural principles you recognize from several different alien species. The space is vast, capable of housing thousands of people, and equipped with technology that could sustain a population for months or even years. Here, surrounded by other evacuees, you begin to understand the true scope of the preparations that have been made for this moment. The people around you include not just communication specialists and diplomatic personnel, but also scientists, engineers, artists, and teachers. Humanity's intellectual and cultural resources have been gathered in secure locations throughout the world, ready to preserve human civilization, even if the surface world is lost. But the gathering also reveals how much you still don't know. Among the evacuees are people whose faces you recognize but whose roles you've never understood. Colleagues who you thought were simple administrators turn out to be key figures in resistance networks that have been operating in secret for years. The friendly maintenance technician who serviced your office equipment is apparently an expert in alien weapons systems. The briefing that follows explains the plan that has been developing since the Krillian threat was first identified. Earth's visible communication and defensive systems will be allowed to appear vulnerable, encouraging the Krillian fleet to approach within range of weapons systems they don't know exist. When the attack comes, humanity's response will demonstrate capabilities that will surprise not just the Krillians, but their allies throughout the galaxy. But the plan requires more than military action. It requires a fundamental shift in how humanity relates to the galactic community. The fiction of human weakness and dependence that has defined Earth's relationship with the Federation for 77 years must be abandoned. Humanity will reveal itself as the technological powerhouse it has always been. But that revelation will force every species in the galaxy to reconsider their assumptions about power, cooperation, and survival. The 72 hours that follow feel like a lifetime compressed into an impossibly brief span. From the underground facility, you watch as the surface world continues its apparently normal routine while hidden preparations reach their final stages. Transportation systems that appear to malfunction are actually being reconfigured for military purposes. Communication networks that seem to be failing are actually being rerouted through backup systems that the Krillians can't detect or intercept. Most remarkably, the apparent chaos and confusion on Earth's surface is attracting exactly the response that was intended. The Krillian fleet, confident that their sabotage has left Earth defenseless, accelerates its approach and abandons the stealth protocols that might have allowed them to avoid detection by systems they don't know exist. When the attack comes, it unfolds with a precision that reveals both the thoroughness of the Krillian plan and the completeness of humanity's preparation. 37 Krillian vessels emerge from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, their formation optimized for overwhelming Earth's known defensive capabilities. But the defensive capabilities they encounter are far beyond anything they prepared for. Weapons systems built with human innovations and alien technology destroy half the Krillian fleet before they can respond. The survivors find themselves trapped by gravity field generators that prevent faster-than-light escape, while communication jammers prevent them from calling for reinforcement. The battle lasts less than an hour, but its implications will reshape galactic civilization for generations. Humanity has revealed itself as a major military power, but more importantly, it has demonstrated the technological capabilities that have been hidden behind a facade of grateful dependence. The aftermath of the battle brings changes that transform not just Earth, but the entire galactic community. The Federation Council, faced with evidence of Krillian aggression and human capabilities, convenes emergency sessions that restructure the political and economic relationships between all member species. Humanity's true role as the source of many critical technologies is finally acknowledged, leading to new agreements that provide Earth with resources and respect proportional to its contributions. The communication networks that hold galactic civilization together are redesigned with human oversight, ensuring that no single species can gain the kind of control the Krillians sought. But perhaps most importantly, the crisis forces every species in the galaxy to confront the assumptions they've made about power, cooperation, and survival. The peaceful coexistence that has defined Federation civilization proves to be more fragile than anyone realized, while the diversity and innovation that make the galactic community strong also make it vulnerable to those who would impose uniformity through force. In your new role as Senior Terrestrial Interface Coordinator, you find yourself helping to build a galactic community that is both more honest about the realities of power and more committed to the principles of cooperation and mutual respect. It's demanding work, requiring skills and knowledge you're still developing, but it's also deeply satisfying in ways your previous career never was. The routine that emerges over the following months combines familiar elements with entirely new challenges. You still facilitate communication between species with fundamentally different ways of understanding the universe, but now those communications take place within a framework that acknowledges humanity's true capabilities and contributions. The morning commute still takes you through landscapes that blend human and alien architecture, but now those structures reflect a partnership between equals rather than a relationship between patron and dependent. The restored ecosystems and advanced technologies that define daily life on Earth remain in place, but they're now understood as products of genuine cooperation rather than charitable gifts. Most significantly, the work itself has become more complex and more meaningful. Instead of simply managing trade disputes and cultural exchanges, you're helping to design new forms of interstellar cooperation that could prevent future conflicts while encouraging the kind of innovation and diversity that make galactic civilization worth preserving. The changes extend beyond the professional sphere into every aspect of daily life. The behavioral modification protocols that once eliminated disruptive behavior from public spaces have been relaxed, allowing for the kind of spontaneous human expression that was suppressed in the name of peaceful coexistence. Children laugh loudly on public transportation. Adults argue about trivial matters in restaurants. Couples hold hands and kiss in public spaces without worrying about disturbing the social harmony. The shift feels like waking up from a dream that was pleasant, but somehow incomplete. The comfort and security of the old system remain, but they're now balanced by the energy and unpredictability that make human life truly human. But the most profound change is psychological. For the first time in your adult life, you're part of a galactic community that values what humanity offers rather than simply tolerating human participation. The innovations and perspectives that your species brings to galactic civilization are recognized as essential rather than supplementary. That recognition brings both opportunities and responsibilities. Humanity's influence in galactic affairs has increased dramatically, but so has the expectation that Earth will contribute to solving problems that affect the entire community. When resource disputes arise between species, human mediators are often called upon to propose solutions. When new technologies need to be evaluated for their potential risks and benefits, human researchers play central roles in the assessment process. The work is challenging in ways that go beyond the technical complexities of interstellar communication and diplomacy. You're helping to build a form of civilization that has never existed before, one that balances the needs and perspectives of dozens of species, while preserving the diversity that makes the galactic community innovative and adaptable. Some days, the magnitude of the responsibility feels overwhelming. The decisions you participate in could affect the lives of trillions of beings across hundreds of worlds. The relationships you help maintain or repair could determine whether galactic civilization continues to evolve or fragments into competing factions that view each other as threats. But more often, the work feels like the natural extension of everything you've spent your career learning to do. The skills that made you effective at facilitating trade negotiations and cultural exchanges prove equally valuable when applied to larger questions of interstellar cooperation and conflict prevention. And on the best days, you catch glimpses of what galactic civilization could become if the current trajectory continues. A community of worlds where different species contribute their unique strengths while learning from each other's perspectives. A network of relationships based on mutual respect and genuine cooperation, rather than fear and domination. A form of civilization that preserves diversity while working toward common goals. Those glimpses make the long days and difficult decisions worthwhile. They provide a vision of the future that justifies the risks and sacrifices required to achieve it. Most importantly, they remind you that the crisis that revealed humanity's true place in the galactic community was also an opportunity to build something better than what existed before. The evening routine that ends your days has evolved to include elements that would have been impossible in the old system. You sometimes meet with colleagues from other species for informal discussions about challenges facing the galactic community. The conversations range from technical problems with specific technologies to philosophical questions about the nature of cooperation and competition. These discussions often continue over meals that blend culinary traditions from multiple worlds, creating flavors and textures that exist nowhere else in the galaxy. The food serves as a metaphor for the broader project of building a civilization that combines the best elements from many different cultures while creating something entirely new. The journey home takes you through the same transformed landscapes you've traveled every day for years, but your perspective on those landscapes continues to evolve. The alien architecture integrated with human buildings now represents genuine partnership, rather than grateful acceptance of outside assistance. The ships moving through the evening sky carry cargo and passengers that reflect the economic and cultural integration of the galactic community. But perhaps most significantly, the peaceful coexistence you see around you no longer feels fragile or artificial. It's the product of relationships based on mutual understanding and respect, sustained by systems that acknowledge the realities of power while promoting the values of cooperation and diversity. Your apartment building comes into view as the monorail approaches the residential district, its lights beginning to twinkle as the day shifts toward night. The familiar sight brings the deep satisfaction that comes from knowing you've spent the day working toward something larger than yourself, something that could benefit not just humanity, but every species in the galactic community. The view from your window shows a city skyline that tells the story of 77 years of interstellar cooperation. But now, that story has a different meaning. The achievements represented by the architecture and technology around your products of genuine partnership, rather than charitable dependence. The future they point toward is one that humanity will help shape, rather than simply experience. As you prepare for bed, you find yourself reflecting on how profoundly your understanding of the world has changed over the past few weeks. The comfortable assumptions that defined your previous understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy have been replaced by a more complex, but ultimately more satisfying vision of what interstellar civilization could become. Sleep comes more easily now than it did during the crisis, But your dreams are filled with visions of the future that span generations and light years. You see human colonies on distant worlds contributing their unique perspectives to local challenges. You see alien researchers working alongside human scientists to solve problems that no single species could address alone. You see children growing up in a galactic community that values diversity and innovation while promoting cooperation and mutual respect. But this transformation of human civilization from grateful dependence to genuine partnership raises profound questions about the path not taken. What would your life be like if the aliens had never arrived at all? What would humanity have become if forced to solve its problems and pursue its dreams without outside assistance or interference? In our reality, the reality you've never known, the year 2024 finds humanity grappling with challenges that seem almost trivial compared to the complexities of galactic civilization. Yet those challenges carry a weight and meaning that your world has never experienced. Climate change threatens the stability of natural systems that sustain human life, but every solution that emerges comes from human ingenuity and determination rather than alien technology. Political divisions create conflict and uncertainty, but the debates that rage across democratic societies reflect authentically human values and priorities rather than behavioral modifications designed to ensure compliance. The morning routine in our reality begins without harmonic resonance generators or neural interfaces, yet it carries satisfactions that your world has never known. The alarm that wakes people is jarring and imperfect, but it belongs entirely to human engineering. The breakfast that sustains them comes from plants and animals that evolved on Earth without genetic enhancement, providing nutrition that may be less optimal, but represents the authentic relationship between humanity and its home planet. The coffee that millions of people drink each morning tastes exactly as it did centuries ago, grown in soil that has never been enhanced with alien technology. The flavor may be less perfect than the synthesized beverages that characterize your world, but every cup represents a connection to human history and agricultural traditions that span thousands of years. The imperfections and variations that define natural food create experiences that are unique and unrepeatable, rather than optimized and standardized. Economic inequality creates suffering and frustration that your world eliminated through alien assistance, yet the struggle for economic justice generates movements and innovations that emerge from human creativity and moral development. The solutions that emerge from these struggles belong entirely to humanity, creating social progress that reflects human values rather than alien guidance. Technological disruption creates uncertainty and challenges that your world never faced, but it also creates opportunities for human innovation that have produced remarkable achievements. The Internet connects billions of people through infrastructure built entirely by human engineering, creating networks of communication and collaboration that span the globe without requiring alien assistance. The smartphones that people carry provide access to information and entertainment that would have seemed miraculous to previous generations, yet every component and capability represents human technological development. Space exploration in our reality proceeds at a pace that seems glacial compared to the interstellar civilization that defines your world, yet every mission into space represents a triumph of human curiosity and engineering that belongs entirely to our species. The International Space Station orbits Earth as a testament to human cooperation and scientific achievement. The rovers that explore Mars send back images and data that expand human knowledge of the universe through purely human efforts. The telescopes that peer into deep space reveal galaxies and phenomena that inspire wonder and drive further exploration, without requiring guidance from more advanced civilizations. Medical advances in our reality extend and improve human life through research conducted entirely by human physicians and scientists. Cancer treatments that save millions of lives emerge from laboratories where human researchers dedicate their careers to understanding disease and developing cures. Surgical techniques that were impossible just decades ago allow doctors to repair hearts, transplant organs, and restore sight to the blind through innovations that represent the culmination of centuries of human medical knowledge. The diseases that continue to cause suffering in our world create urgency and motivation that drive research forward at unprecedented speeds. The COVID-19 pandemic that swept across the globe demonstrated both human vulnerability and human resilience, leading to vaccine development that normally would have taken decades but was accomplished in less than a year. The challenge created responses that showcased the best of human cooperation and scientific capability. Mental health challenges that your world eliminated through alien psychological technologies continue to affect millions of people in our reality. Yet the solutions that emerge reflect authentically human approaches to emotional wellness and psychological growth. Therapy techniques that help people overcome trauma and depression develop from understanding of human psychology rather than alien behavioral modification. The support networks that sustain people through difficult times emerge from human empathy and social connection rather than technological intervention. Educational systems in our reality struggle with challenges that your world solved through alien learning technologies, yet the knowledge that students acquire comes through processes that develop authentically human capabilities. Children learn to read and write through methods that have been refined over centuries of human educational experience. Students develop critical thinking skills through debates and discussions that reflect human intellectual traditions rather than alien cognitive enhancement. The universities that define higher education in our world create knowledge through research that emerges entirely from human curiosity and scientific method. The discoveries that expand human understanding of physics, biology, chemistry, and mathematics come from laboratories where human scientists pursue questions that fascinate them without guidance from more advanced civilizations. Art and culture in our reality emerge from human experience and express human concerns without requiring validation from alien aesthetics. The music that moves people to tears or fills them with joy comes from composers who understand human emotion and create sounds that speak to human hearts. The literature that explores the depths of human experience emerges from writers who grapple with questions of meaning and purpose that define the human condition. The paintings that hang in museums capture human perspectives on beauty, tragedy, and wonder that reflect the unique viewpoint of a species that evolved on Earth. The films that entertain and inspire audiences tell stories that emerge from human imagination and address concerns that matter to human audiences. The cultural achievements that define human civilization belong entirely to the species that created them, representing authentic expressions of human creativity and vision. Political systems in our reality, however imperfect, emerge from human history and reflect human attempts to balance individual freedom with collective decision-making. Democracy, despite its flaws and limitations, represents humanity's ongoing experiment in self-governance. The debates that characterize democratic societies, however frustrating and divisive, reflect genuine disagreements about values and priorities rather than conflicts manufactured to distract from alien control. Human rights movements that seek to expand dignity and opportunity for all people emerge from moral development that belongs entirely to humanity. The progress that has been made in reducing discrimination and expanding equality represents authentic human moral growth rather than behavioral modification imposed by outside forces. The setbacks and reversals that continue to occur create challenges that must be met through human effort and determination. Environmental challenges in our reality force humanity to confront the consequences of its own actions and develop solutions that reflect human values and capabilities. Climate change represents both a threat and an opportunity, driving innovation in renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and environmental restoration that emerges from human engineering and scientific research. The renewable energy systems that increasingly power human civilization represent technological achievements that belong entirely to humanity. Solar panels that convert sunlight into electricity, wind turbines that harness atmospheric energy, and battery systems that store power for when it's needed all represent solutions to environmental challenges that human engineers have developed through their own efforts. Conservation efforts that protect endangered species and restore damaged ecosystems emerge from human understanding of ecological relationships and human commitment to preserving the natural world. The national parks that protect wilderness areas exist because humans decided that some places should be preserved for their own sake, rather than exploited for short-term gain. Scientific research in our reality proceeds according to human curiosity and human methods of investigation, creating knowledge that belongs entirely to the species that discovered it. The Large Hadron Collider that probes the fundamental structure of matter represents the culmination of centuries of human physics research. The Human Genome Project that mapped the complete human genetic code represents an achievement of human biology and computational science. The space telescopes that peer into the depths of the universe reveal phenomena that expand human understanding of cosmic evolution and the possibility of life beyond Earth. The searches for extraterrestrial life that scan the skies for signals from other civilizations represent human curiosity about our place in the universe and the possibility that we are not alone. But perhaps most importantly, the future that awaits humanity in our reality remains completely open and undetermined. The choices that current and future generations make will determine whether human civilization flourishes or struggles, whether the species spreads beyond Earth or remains confined to a single world, whether humanity learns to live in sustainable harmony with its environment or faces ecological collapse. The uncertainty that characterizes our reality carries both tremendous risk and unlimited opportunity. The mistakes that humanity makes will have consequences that the species must live with and learn from. But the successes will belong entirely to humanity, creating a legacy that reflects what human beings can accomplish when they rely on their own resources, ingenuity, and determination. The loneliness of our reality, the absence of alien wisdom and guidance, preserves something precious about the human experience that your world has lost. Every discovery is genuinely new. Every solution is authentically human. Every achievement represents the culmination of human effort and creativity. The universe remains a vast mystery waiting to be explored rather than a known quantity managed by more advanced civilizations. The dreams of interstellar travel, alien contact, and galactic civilization that inspire human imagination in our reality remain dreams, but they are dreams that humanity continues to pursue through its own efforts. The technologies being developed, the knowledge being acquired, and the capabilities being built could someday make those dreams reality through purely human achievement. Young people in our reality grow up with the possibility that they might be the generation that makes contact with extraterrestrial life, that develops faster than light travel, that establishes human colonies on distant worlds. The future remains open to possibilities that no one can predict or control, creating opportunities for achievement and discovery that belong entirely to human potential. The challenges that face humanity in our reality often seem overwhelming, but they create unity and purpose that your world has never experienced. When natural disasters strike, humans work together to provide aid and rebuilding assistance that emerges from human compassion rather than alien-imposed behavioral modification. When diseases threaten public health, human medical professionals risk their own lives to care for patients and develop treatments. The wars and conflicts that continue to occur in our reality represent failures of human wisdom and cooperation, but they also demonstrate human capacity for sacrifice and heroism. The soldiers who risk their lives to protect others, the peacekeepers who work to prevent conflict, and the diplomats who seek negotiated solutions to international disputes all represent authentic human responses to human challenges. The social problems that persist in our reality, from poverty to discrimination to violence, create moral imperatives that drive human efforts toward justice and equality. The progress that has been made represents genuine human moral development, while the work that remains provides opportunities for future generations to continue building a more just and compassionate world. In the quiet moments of daily life in our reality, people experience satisfactions and meanings that your world cannot provide. The parent who watches a child take their first steps experiences joy that belongs entirely to the human experience of love and growth. The student who finally understands a difficult concept feels accomplishment that reflects authentic human learning. The artist who creates something beautiful experiences the satisfaction of bringing something new into existence through human creativity. The elderly people who look back on long lives see achievements and relationships that developed through authentic human experience, rather than technological enhancement. Their wisdom comes from decades of making mistakes and learning from them, facing challenges and overcoming them, loving others, and being loved in return. Their perspective on life emerges from experiences that belong entirely to the human condition. The communities that sustain people through difficult times emerge from human social bonds rather than alien behavioral modification. The friendships that provide support and companionship develop through shared experiences and mutual understanding. The families that create security and meaning exist because humans choose to care for each other across generations. Religious and spiritual traditions that provide meaning and purpose to billions of people emerge from human attempts to understand existence and find connection to something greater than themselves. The prayers that comfort people in times of grief, the rituals that mark important life transitions, and the ethical teachings that guide moral behavior all represent authentic human responses to fundamental questions about meaning and purpose. The philosophical traditions that explore questions of truth, beauty, and goodness emerge from human intellectual curiosity, rather than alien guidance. The debates that have continued for thousands of years about the nature of reality, the basis of knowledge, and the source of moral obligation reflect genuine human attempts to understand existence and our place within it. But perhaps the most significant difference between your reality and ours lies not in the specific achievements or challenges that characterize each world, but in the fundamental question of what it means to be human. In your reality, humanity exists as part of something larger, connected to a galactic community that provides both opportunities and constraints. The achievements that define human civilization emerge from collaboration and cooperation with other species, creating impressive results, but raising questions about what belongs uniquely to humanity. In our reality, humanity stands alone in the cosmos as far as we know, facing challenges and pursuing dreams without guidance or assistance from more advanced civilizations. The achievements that define our civilization belong entirely to human effort and creativity, creating a legacy that reflects what one species can accomplish through its own resources and determination. The choice between connection and isolation, between assistance and independence, between cooperation and autonomy shapes not just the circumstances of existence, but the meaning that can be derived from life itself. Your reality offers the comfort and security that comes from knowing that humanity is part of something larger and more stable than any single species could create. Our reality offers the satisfaction and responsibility that comes from knowing that human achievements reflect human capabilities rather than external assistance. Both paths offer opportunities for growth, discovery, and meaning. Both create challenges that must be met through intelligence, courage, and determination. Both represent valid responses to the fundamental questions that face any species that develops consciousness and begins to wonder about its place in the universe. But the meaning that emerges from each path differs in ways that affect every aspect of existence. In your reality, human life has meaning because it contributes to something larger than humanity itself. Individual achievements matter because they serve purposes that extend beyond human concerns. The future has value because it represents continued participation in galactic civilization that could last for millions of years. In our reality, human life has meaning because it represents the universe becoming conscious of itself through one particular species that emerged on one particular planet. Individual achievements matter because they represent the culmination of billions of years of evolution that led to creatures capable of understanding and creativity. The future has value because it represents unlimited potential for discovery and growth that belongs entirely to human possibility. The universe itself takes on different meanings in each reality. In your world, the cosmos is known to be filled with intelligent life, making humanity one voice in a vast choir of consciousness that spans galaxies and eons. The universe has purpose because so many species have discovered that purpose and work together to fulfill it. In our reality, the universe remains largely mysterious, possibly containing other forms of consciousness, but currently revealing only one known example of beings capable of wonder and understanding. The cosmos may be indifferent to human existence, or it may have purposes that humans cannot yet comprehend. The mystery itself creates opportunities for discovery and meaning that could continue indefinitely. As you drift towards sleep in your world of interstellar cooperation and alien wisdom, surrounded by technologies that eliminate most forms of suffering while providing abundance and security that previous generations could never have imagined. Take a moment to appreciate both the world you inhabit and the world you've never known. Your reality represents the fulfillment of dreams that humans in our world continue to pursue. The peace and prosperity that characterize daily life in your civilization demonstrate what becomes possible when intelligent species learn to cooperate rather than compete. The knowledge and capabilities that define your society show how much can be achieved when the resources and wisdom of multiple worlds are combined toward common purposes. But remember, too, that in another universe, human beings are building something equally remarkable through their own efforts alone. Every breakthrough represents human ingenuity working without alien assistance. Every achievement reflects human values pursued without external guidance. Every step forward demonstrates what one species can accomplish when forced to rely entirely on its own resources and determination. The scientists in our reality who probe the mysteries of quantum mechanics and cosmic evolution do so with instruments built by human hands according to theories developed by human minds. The doctors who heal the sick use knowledge gained through human research and techniques perfected through human practice. The teachers who educate the young pass on wisdom accumulated through centuries of human learning and discovery. The artists who create beauty and meaning do so through talents that emerged from human genetics and environments that shaped human creativity. The leaders who guide communities through challenges do so using judgment developed through human experience and values derived from human moral development. The ordinary people who live lives of dignity and purpose do so because they create meaning through relationships and achievements that belong entirely to human experience. The children who grow up in our reality learn to read stories written by human authors, solve problems using mathematics discovered by human mathematicians, and understand the world through science developed by human researchers. Their imaginations are shaped by possibilities that humans have dreamed of and achievements that humans have accomplished. Their sense of what is possible emerges from human examples rather than alien guidance. The young adults who choose careers and relationships in our reality do so based on values and aspirations that developed through human culture and personal experience. Their decisions shape not just their own lives, but the future of human civilization itself. The responsibility is enormous, but so is the opportunity to create something that belongs entirely to human choice and human achievement. The elderly in our reality look back on lives that unfolded according to patterns that emerged from human history and human decision-making. Their experiences of love, loss, achievement, and failure provide wisdom that comes from authentic human engagement with existence, rather than technological enhancement of natural capabilities. Their perspective on meaning and purpose emerges from decades of finding significance in experiences that belong entirely to the human condition. But perhaps most importantly, the future that awaits humanity in our reality remains genuinely unknown and unlimited. The next great discoveries could come from any laboratory where human researchers are pursuing questions that fascinate them. The next great works of art could emerge from any individual who finds new ways to express human experience and insight. The next great advances in justice and compassion could develop from any community where people decide to treat each other with greater dignity and respect. The universe itself remains open to exploration and discovery that could continue for as long as humanity exists. The stars that shine in our night sky represent destinations that humans might someday reach through their own technological development. The galaxies visible through our telescopes contain mysteries that human scientists might someday solve through their own research and investigation. The possibility of contact with extraterrestrial life remains one of the great unknowns that could transform human understanding of existence and purpose. But if that contact occurs, it will happen to a species that has developed its capabilities and defined its values through its own efforts. The conversation that follows will be between equals who have each achieved consciousness and civilization through their own unique evolutionary paths. In the deepest sense, both realities represent different aspects of what it means to be conscious beings in a universe that may or may not have ultimate purpose or meaning. Your reality demonstrates what becomes possible when consciousness connects and cooperates across cosmic distances. Our reality demonstrates what one particular form of consciousness can achieve when it accepts complete responsibility for its own development and future. Both paths have dignity and value. Both create opportunities for growth, discovery, and meaning that could continue indefinitely. Both represent responses to the fundamental challenge that faces any species that develops the ability to wonder about its place in existence and choose how to respond to that wonder. The comfort and security that define your world provide the foundation for achievements and experiences that our reality cannot offer. The connection and cooperation that characterize your civilization create possibilities for growth and discovery that extend far beyond what any single species could accomplish alone. But the independence and responsibility that characterize our reality preserve possibilities for meaning and achievement that your world has necessarily sacrificed. The struggles and uncertainties that define human existence in our universe create opportunities for courage, creativity, and growth that emerge only when beings must rely entirely on their own resources and determination. Sweet dreams of distant stars and alien wisdom, of technologies that eliminate suffering and create abundance, of cooperation that spans galaxies and civilizations that last for millions of years. But remember, too, that in another universe, human beings are reaching toward those same stars through their own efforts, creating meaning through their own struggles, and building a future that belongs entirely to them. And in the quiet moments before sleep takes hold, perhaps you can appreciate the profound truth that both realities represent. Consciousness is the universe's greatest achievement, whether that consciousness emerges once on a single world or countless times across countless civilizations. The meaning that emerges from existence comes not from the specific circumstances that shape life, but from the capacity to experience wonder, create beauty, seek truth, and choose love over indifference. Whether humanity stands alone in the cosmos or takes its place among countless species, whether human achievements emerge from independent effort or collaborative cooperation, the simple fact that the universe has produced beings capable of asking these questions represents a triumph that gives meaning to existence itself. Sleep well in your world of interstellar brotherhood and technological abundance. But know that somewhere in another reality, humans are sleeping well too, dreaming of stars they might someday reach and wondering about questions they might someday answer, finding meaning in the simple fact that they are conscious beings in a universe that has given them the capacity to wonder, to love, and to hope for something greater than themselves.